People from all different walks of life choose to walk the Appalachian Trail, so that means that a thru hike can be experienced on pretty much any budget. Mine just happened to be a very low budget. I had $300 to my name when I started the trail, and of course I didn't plan on that happening, but it was always my dream to hike with my best friend Abigail, and 2024 was the only year of our lives that lined up to do it together. So I just had to start hiking. I never thought that I would make it to Katahdin. I always just thought that I would go as far as I possibly could before I ran out of money. But somehow, at the end of it all, we summited Katahdin and we kept track of all the financial stuff along the way. Just keep in mind, though, as I'm going through it all, that everyone's thru hike is different. I am only sharing my experience of what I spent on mine. And this is probably not even a great representation of the average thru hike. My thru hike was a lot different than the average hiker. The main two reasons it wasn't your typical thru hike are, one, I hiked with a partner the whole time, so it was a duo thru hike and we were able to split expenses. And it was a supported thru hike. I had my husband Cam follow us up along the way in our camper van. So I'll get into all the ways that those factors were able to help cut costs and all the ways that it unfortunately introduced new expenses. So let's start out with all the expenses of preparing for the trail. Of course, you need all the proper gear to live at least semi-comfortably in the woods for months on end. I did everything I could to get the best deals on gear. I took advantage of Black Friday sales. I bought a lot of things secondhand from Facebook Marketplace or thrift stores even. I was able to find stuff. And honestly, eBay was a really good resource for used gear. And I was also very fortunate to have friends and family that were able to gift me some of my gear on my gear list for Christmas and things like that. I was also able to split the price of certain items that I was going to be sharing with my hiking partner. For example, our cook kit or water filtration system. We even shared a tent. That was already a really cheap tent in the first place, but everything you could split the price of helped. I think I spent around $250 of my own money for my gear. I wasn't keeping track of all my expenses until the day that I started walking the trail, so I'm not sure of the exact figure, but I would say about $250. But that includes every single item that I took on trail with me. So if you want to check out my gear list video and see what all I took, it's right up here. Obviously, the most common expense for the average hiker is going to be food. We were able to save a lot of money on food by buying most of it in bulk before we started the trail. And we had the luxury of keeping our stockpile in the van and taking out what we need on resupply days. The initial cost of our staple food items and bulk food items was $325. We were also very luckily gifted a very large supply of Mountain House meals right before we started our hike. Like, we had two huge boxes of them. So basically, we rationed those out throughout our thru hike and mixed them with other meals to make them last for the whole duration. We also, of course, took advantage of trail magic whenever we could. We were so fortunate to run into so many trail angels on our thru hike. We literally had trail magic multiple times a week, every week. It was so amazing. So thank you to all of the trail angels who did trail magic for all the hikers in 2024. So seriously, there is nothing a hiker loves more than calories of any kind. So thank you so much, trail angels. Since we were on a budget, we mostly avoided eating at restaurants, but there were a few times that we caved in. Fresh meals were just such a big temptation. And then also in the summer, it was a big temptation just to sit in a restaurant with air conditioning. That made it worth it. And of course, there were times that we had to resupply on dry food items or just other things to pack out. So in total, we spent $95 on food. Of course, that is extremely low for a thru hiker. That is basically unheard of. So I wouldn't look at that as the average experience, but we got very lucky. Having the van follow us up for support had its pros and cons. It allowed us to not spend a single dollar on hotels or hostels. On 0 or Nero days, we were able to just sleep in the van and recuperate instead of renting a bed. And it was so nice to be able to sleep in my own home. But that home is a 91 van, so it was not the best with gas mileage. Gas very quickly became our biggest expense, but I was able to split it with my hiking partner. In total, I spent $782 on fuel. The only other clear category we spent money on was laundry. We tried to do our laundry by hand whenever there was a water source or an opportunity to do that to save a few dollars. But when we did have to go to the laundromat, me and my hiking partner Abigail were able to put all of our clothes and gear and things into the same machine, so we were able to split the cost of laundry as well. And that's something that's very common for hikers who are even on solo hikes to do is, when you're in a hostel and there's other hikers around, you can share a washing machine. In total, I spent $34 on laundry. So moving on to the more miscellaneous purchases. Having our van saved us money in a lot of ways, but it also introduced some new expenses, not including gas. We spent $30 on an oil change, $21 on parking fees, and $17 on tolls. And of course, we had to make upgrades to our gear, whether that was our gear not lasting the whole 6 months and we needed, replacements, or just brand new gear that we bought along the way that we didn't know we needed at the start of our thru hike. We bought a CNOC for $10, a day pack for $20, a fuel canister for $6, permethrin for $6, and moleskin for $5. Other than that, we were able to get all the gear we needed from hiker boxes for free. I was even able to find a really good pair of barely used new shoes once I got into Pennsylvania, and I'm glad that those were in a hiker box because I definitely needed them for all the rocks. We were able to get fuel canisters from them, replacement trekking poles, sometimes trail food, and a bunch of other necessities. Hiker boxes are such a great resource for hikers, and I am so grateful that I was able to give back to them and put in some gear when I no longer needed it. I had to buy allergy pills at one point for $2. If you watched our vlogs, you know my allergies got really bad at certain points. I bought shoe freshening spray for $3, and I don't even think that was an unnecessary purchase because I actually could not stand the smell of our gear at some points, so it was worth it. And as far as smelling bad, I spent a total of $8 throughout our hike on baby wipes to take half showers. I also bought Lysol spray to spray on everything all the time because we were so terrified of getting norovirus, so I would just spray it on any bathrooms or anything in town that I had to touch. We were very worried about norovirus. So I spent a total of $10 on Lysol. Lastly, we did take detours to both Washington, D.C. and New York City, and we spent a total of $50 on the metro. So the total amount spent on miscellaneous purchases was $188. So, after adding up all the expenses, every purchase from the day I walked through the arches at Amicalola Falls to the day that I summited Katahdin, I spent a grand total of $1,099 on my thru hike. According to the Trek, the average cost of a thru hike of the Appalachian Trail in 2024 was $7,602. And the most common amount that was spent was $10,500. So it's pretty clear that my thru hike was an extremely low budget one. With all the things that I did to save money on my thru hike and all the support and luck that I had along the way, I was able to spend less on my entire thru hike than most hikers spend in a month. And even though I only spent the low price of $1,099, you probably noticed that that's still way more than the $300 I started out with. I picked up odd jobs where I could, and there were even a few people who decided to donate to me to support my journey. So if you were one of those people who donated, thank you so, so much. It was such an amazing adventure and just such a life-changing experience. We of course had the van, so occasionally we were able to pick up a hitchhiker and take them into town, and sometimes they threw us a little bit of cash for that. And if you didn't know, I am a photographer, so it's really easy for me to work anywhere. And one of the things that I did was take portraits of hikers in exchange for a donation. They didn't have to donate, sometimes they did. More people ended up donating than I thought would, so it turned out to be a really good idea. I even had the honor of photographing a wedding of 2 hikers who decided to get married at Trail Days. I also work as a model, so when we took our detour to New York City, it was very easy for me to pick up modeling jobs, and that helped to further fund our journey. Also, when we were in New York City, and this is a little bit more unhinged, but it works, so what I would do is pick up furniture off the side of the road and sell it on Facebook Marketplace. There were people moving in and out of the city all the time, and it was cheaper to just leave your furniture on the side of the road, I guess, instead of paying to move it or, trying to figure all that out. So I made a pretty decent amount of money from just reselling trash in New York City. And it wasn't really trash, it would be a lot of nice stuff. And since there's so many people in New York City, it would literally always sell within an hour of me listing it. So very easy and very fast. And of course, Cam is a musician, so that was one of the best places along the way that we found to busk and make a little extra cash that way. I already live a nomadic lifestyle when I'm off trail, so it wasn't really crazy for me or new for me to try and find remote work. I just basically did the jobs that I already do. And if you're interested in knowing all of those ways that we make money while living on the road, just leave a comment, let us know, and we will make a video about it. Also, be sure to comment how much you spent on your through hike. I am very curious to see how the numbers vary for everyone. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because we are the closest we've ever been to 100,000 subscribers. It's a really great and free way to help out the channel. So thank you for watching. Happy hiking.